I now give the floor to His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Youssouf, Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Djibouti.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Excellencies, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, I would like to express our sincere congratulations to you upon your election as President of the 73rd session of the General Assembly. The many skills that you possess confirm in our minds that you will successfully accomplish your mission in the service of the nations of the world. Djibouti welcomes your election to the presidency of the General Assembly for various reasons, including because you are the fourth woman to hold this position in 73 years. It goes without saying, Madam President, that you can rely upon the support of my country in the accomplishment of your mandate, and I would also like to applaud the robust, proactive commitment of your predecessor, Mr. Miroslav Lajčák, and I'm also delighted to congratulate the Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, upon his many initiatives to drive the agenda of the United Nations forward, as well as for the ambitious reform plans for the United Nations system that have been planned and developed with the support of member states. Although there is a consensus over the need for reforms to make our organization more effective, it has not always been easy to convince others and to do away with the resistance and inertia that this sort of major undertaking often faces. Madam President, in spite of improvements in a number of indicators, such as an increase in life expectancy, living standards, and a dramatic reduction in extreme poverty around the world, what we said last year before this same General Assembly remains valid. Even though growth is gaining pace in some parts of the world, the risk of prospects dimming is substantial. The economic expansion and economic growth prospects are increasing risks of aggravated tensions and trade disputes. Glaring inequalities are persistent, and major geopolitical upheaval that is underway is creating a growing uncertainty, and the ongoing and increasing complexity of many conflicts is a major cause of concern. The number of people that are leaving their countries due to threats that they face is only growing, and those who are leaving in pursuit of a better life, risking their lives and taking to the seas, grows every day. This migratory flow has contributed unwittingly to the emergence of a bitter political debate in many northern countries. These virulent debates, taken literally and without a dose of critical perspective, could undermine the feeling of beginning to a shared humanity and the shared responsibility to build a better world together. The crisis in multilateralism that we are witnessing and protectionist tendencies that we can see, the palpable tension of turning inward, sometimes irrationally, are the consequences of this emerging ideology. This presupposes that we must only rely on ourselves, that we must only count on ourselves, contradicting the philosophical wisdom of je et un autre, I am someone else, I is someone else. Hence the importance of the theme, making the United Nations relevant to all people, global leadership and shared responsibilities for peaceful, equitable and sustainable societies, the theme that has been proposed to guide our consideration at this General Assembly. Compiling our proposals and contributions could make up a manifesto to renew and restore the faith and confidence that our populations place in the United Nations system, in its capacity and ability to address their problems. Madam President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Djibouti welcomes the fact that in response to each of the problems that I have just mentioned, the international community has mobilized and come up with responses and developed action plans in the framework of a particularly well-led intergovernmental process. And among these successes, I should like to mention the adoption of reforms undertaken by the Secretary General in the three key areas: the repositioning of the UN development system for the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Humanity, the management reform, and reform of the peace and security architecture. I should also like to underscore the finalization, following an open, transparent and inclusive process, of the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration. The adoption of this is planned for Marrakesh in December. Equally, Djibouti considers that The finalization of the Global Compact for Refugees, which will be put to the consideration of the General Assembly during this session, will be a major development. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, refugees are a particularly vulnerable group, and the United Nations, if it cannot provide a lasting solution to the causes of the conflicts that force them into exile, must appropriately meet their needs. Efforts to implement the 2030 Agenda are encouraging and motivating. The current momentum towards taking ownership of and mainstreaming the SDGs within planning efforts, as well as institutional efforts made by countries, should be pursued with vigour. It is a question of thinking and discussing in greater detail, establishing participative frameworks and new partnership models. Investments must be redirected to strengthen the collection of data pertaining to sustainable development, as well as on gender, healthcare, education and environment statistics. Djibouti will soon have the pleasure of presenting its initial voluntary review and considers this exercise in self-reflection a positive one. We also welcome the elements of the strategy advanced by the Secretary-General to mobilize additional resources for the financing of the 2030 Agenda. In this respect, allow me to once again underscore that we must not only think about innovative financing strategies and guaranteeing an increased flow of foreign direct investment, but also to honour the commitments made in respect of development assistance. Madam President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the greatest threat of the implementation of the transformative agenda is undoubtedly conflict and violence. Conflicts around the world continue to present a somber picture and a list of casualties, and the nature of the specific challenges that this presents should mobilize the sustained attention of the international community. The expansion of terrorism and international organized crime is further complicating already fragile situations and requires a different response from those proposed by conventional peacekeeping operations, and also presents a crisis for the diplomatic negotiating tools that we have at our disposal. It is urgent that we consider these measures in depth. Contrasting with this somber picture, the Horn of Africa has seen positive historical developments which can create dividends for peace, reconciliation and economic development. We welcomed the thaw in relations between Ethiopia and Eritrea, which puts an end to decades of a situation of neither war nor peace and inaugurates a new age of peace, friendship and cooperation among the two countries. The positive repercussions for other interstate conflicts in the countries, among the countries of the region were immediate, and we hope that the impact will be substantial. Here I would like to inform this august assembly that the presidents of Djibouti and Eritrea met on the 17th of September in Jeddah, under the auspices of His Majesty the King Salman bin Abdulaziz of Al Saud of Saudi Arabia, and agreed to open a new chapter in the relations between these two brother countries. Following this meeting, and thanks to the tireless efforts of the King of Saudi Arabia and His Excellency the Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia, they agreed to continue the dialogue that they had begun to find a peaceful outcome to the outstanding issues, including the border dispute and the issue of prisoners of war. We also welcome the peace agreement signed between President Salva Kiir and the leader of the rebellion on the 12th of September in Addis Ababa under the auspices of IGAD, and we hope that it will be implemented fully and unreservedly. The people of South Sudan have suffered for too long. They deserve peace and the possibility to build a better future. We are encouraged by this vast progress that has been made by Somalia to build robust governance institutions and to restore peace, stability and economic growth. While we recognize the substantial progress that has been made, it is vital that together we identify and combat those that oppose the political normalization taking place, in particular the terrorist group Al-Shabaab, and it also is vital that we do everything and spare no effort to create greater coherence and unity of action between the federal government and the other federal entities. We would like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to the AMISOM troops, whose crucial role has been amply demonstrated on the ground. The support of AMISOM for the Somali forces is vital so that the handover of security responsibilities can take place in the best possible conditions. The question of Palestine must also continue to mobilize the international community. There can be no alternative to the two-state solution. What's more, the question of refugees, Palestinian refugees, must also call upon the consciences of all of us. I should also like to recall here the suffering of the Rohingya people, who are suffering, as the international community can see, ethnic cleansing. It is important that pressure be placed on the government of Myanmar so that they accept the return of these refugees, these Rohingya refugees. Ladies and gentlemen, the United Nations has made a significant contribution to efforts for the maintenance of international peace and security. The UN has played a key role in the promotion of international cooperation among states. It is our responsibility and incumbent upon all of us to strengthen its role and to make it a global force. Djibouti stands ready to work alongside other nations to build a world of greater security, greater solidarity, and greater prosperity. It is a sizable challenge and one that cannot wait. Long live the nations of the world. Long live the United Nations. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Djibouti.